Hello and welcome. My name is Mel Mitchell Jackson. I am a visual artist and educator. I go under the term adventure artist because I really like to go on adventures around California and the West Coast and elsewhere and document those adventures, and from those documented adventures create artwork that I can share with all of you as a reminder to go outside. So let's get into what I've been doing the past week. So this last week in my studio, I guess really it's been the last 2 weeks, I have been working on building out my shop, which you can see behind me is a piece of my shop. I created this plywood accordion fold out, kind of like science fair inspired visual for one of my 6-foot tables at an art market. And then I also created 2 4-foot by 2-foot freestanding pegboards where I can hang merchandise, and they'll be really flexible as my paintings change shape and size throughout time. So I'm really excited about that. I have done a lot of work in retail and a lot of work in galleries, and so it's fun to be in a space now where I'm taking all of that work that I did mostly for other artists or for my employer, and instead I am putting it into my own business. So yeah, you're gonna see some of that come together. I am doing my first art pop-up this weekend at Bees and Blooms Farm in Santa Rosa. So they are going to have their farm stand open. It is a really awesome organic lavender farm. Right now lavender's not in bloom, but the products that they sell there are really cool. Lots and lots of awesome lavender goodies. So the farm stand will be open, and I am going to be putting up my first pop-up booth next to the farm stand this weekend. So if you want to come check out my art in person, that's an excellent way to do so if you're in the Bay Area. But this video in particular is going to go over 2 things that I've done that are pretty major in the last 2 weeks. The first is you're going to get to see a couple of clips from a recent trip that I took to the Sierra Nevada mountains. So we're about a 3-hour drive in the Bay Area from Lake Tahoe. So we didn't go to Tahoe specifically, but we went to an area called the El Dorado National Forest and just spent some time exploring and being in nature on a whim, and car camped out of my car. But yeah, here are some excellent videos from the trail. This first video is actually taken out of the sunroof of my car. It is the road heading into the national forest. Absolutely beautiful. Wanted to share that with you. This panoramic moment was really beautiful, and I was super inspired to work on this drawing of the granite talus in the creek bed here that Wes is taking photographs of. Alright, take a look at this view. It's incredible to see the mountains like this. The reservoir bed was really dry and this gorgeous green that I was super inspired by to make this painting here of the bleached granite. We made it to the spring! And so, of course, that gorgeous moment led to this painting as well. Oh, wow. Lastly, here's my car camping setup. Super comfortable. Another really cool thing that came out of that particular trip is I ended up making my first set of products. Okay, so the cards look like this. Here's one. They come with a little square envelope. And they open up like so with my little hand-drawn logo on the back. And here's another. And both of these cards were made in Procreate over the last 2 weeks using a new set of brushes that I got from Manero Brushes. And I actually just did an interview with Atai, who runs Manero Brushes, so you should definitely check that out. A little link in the description for that. I'm really excited about them because also inside of the cards, I couldn't be an educator and make a thing that doesn't have some kind of prompt or inspiration. So inside of each of the sets of cards, there's actually going to be these little green slips of paper in the back. So when you're shopping for the card, you can, in person, choose which prompt inspires you. They are things like, when a big obstacle presents itself, how do you overcome it? Do you go around it or do you go right through? Another is, what words of kindness and nurturance does your recipient need to hear? Maybe something they often forget. So these were all inspired by a grouping of cards that I have from my grandmother before she passed. She used to write me these really sweet, handwritten, just gorgeous little cards of encouragement and like, hey, you're doing the right thing. Don't undervalue your art, things like that she would share with me. So that is the inspiration for the little prompts that are going to be inside, because I really want to encourage letter writing in 2024. I want people to write sweet and cute little letters to their friends and loved ones, because we spend way too much time on digital things and we're not connecting with other humans enough. So if you want to connect with some humans in your life and you also want to support a full-time artist making their way out here in the Bay Area, it's a great way to do both. I also opened my Etsy shop this week. That was actually a whole lot easier than I thought it was going to be. Etsy makes it really easy and kind of lays everything out for you. But I make a lot of watercolor paintings and lightweight stuff that's easy for me to ship out. So I am selling originals on Etsy, and I still have a shop through InPrint for print on demand. That's it for updates. And I get into the rest of this in the vlog itself. I'm really excited for you to see it. All right, so first I actually want to share some of the sketches I made after that trip to El Dorado National Forest that ended up becoming those cards. So these were the preliminary sketches. And then here is me cutting plywood in my front yard using a circular saw. Originally a thing that would have absolutely terrified me, but here I am cutting little triangle feet for my pegboard display. Looks like a little house. And then here I am in my yard, sanding the edges of the plywood. Plywood has a tendency to flake off in little bits if it gets hit against something, so I made the edges really smooth and then primed them with white paint. And then here they are, all connected. Wes took a bunch of photos of me while I was working, and so I'm going to intersperse those here. So I added first a base coat, and then I mixed up a purple and a blue together in order to make kind of a mid-tone. This is my way of hand painting an ombre effect instead of using spray paint, which is probably what I should have done. But it was fun to hand mix this and feather the brush together to create this effect. There I am applying some paint. Wes getting into photography has actually been really great because we can nerd out about things like composition, and he documents things from a completely different perspective than myself, who's working endlessly on these projects. So there I am seeing if I can lift this panel on my moving blanket, and I can. So then I'm applying paint to the very edges to give it a finished look. And I made some time to work at my sketchbook, which felt so good after all of that woodworking, and it was hurting my back. So it was great to just cozy up with some of my favorite YouTubers, sketch with me vlogs, and I just kind of hung out and pretended we were in studio together. So here I am working on a painting of a hike on Mount Diablo that we had gone on a little earlier in the week. It was sunset, and there was this really great set of clouds that were creating their own mountain. I used to say when I lived in the Midwest that we didn't have mountains, we just had epic clouds. But because it's rainy season, we've had some epic clouds here in California to go with our mountains. So there's this nice purple in the clouds, and then it was golden hour, so really beautiful little purple and gold all along the grassy hills. So I'm adding here the gold of the fall colors on all of the oak trees. I really love this little Moleskine sketchbook. It's a fun size, and it's a great place for me to just go and play really quickly without worrying too much about the finished product. Okay, on to the next day. So here I am projecting the font from my business card directly onto this accordion panel, and I really love painting detailed text. It was one of my favorite things to do when I was working on my screenshot series. So rather than ordering vinyl, I decided to add some blue to the paint I already had and make a darker tint. And I am about to start adding the physical paint. Here's Lupin, special guest extraordinaire, wondering what the heck I am doing and why I'm staring at a screen on this piece of wood. Hi, Lupin. You're very cute. Okay, back to painting. Hand lettering all of this was a little bit wobbly at first because the first layer of the acrylic paint was not super opaque since it was a mixture of house paint and acrylic paint. But I ended up going over each letter 3 times, and then a third time I went through with the light purple that's in the background, and I just cleaned up all the edges so that way it felt really nice and crisp. I realized I made the font on the bottom a little bit too bold. So here I am changing the weight of the font with that lighter purple again. And here are the pegboards that I built. I'm really excited about how they turned out with these little triangle legs. And then I had to paint them blue so that everything matches and has a similar aesthetic. I also created a sandwich sign over some of my leftover plywood. And these little purple pieces of wood that I'm painting are my shelves for my accordion. So those are going to be detachable, removable shelves that I can use to set paintings on panel on or different little objects. All right, so I got about 500 of these printed art cards, and I made myself a bone folder out of my old Target debit card so I didn't have to buy another piece of plastic. And I folded all of these. So I just queued up some of my favorite YouTube channels and sat here folding and folding and folding. Eventually, it started hurting my right hand, so I did have to stop and take a break and come back to it the next day, which is this here. Day 2 of folding and folding. I have about 250 of the 500 done so far, but I also need to put them in cellophane wrap and add those little messages for prompts for people as well. And then here's me signing and dating all of the originals that I'm going to be selling at the pop-up. Getting them all sorted, adding business cards into the backs of them. And then here's me using my tiny guillotine to cut up all of those little prompts one by one. And I'm stuffing them into my favorite little marble pencil case from Maker Goods in Kansas City. Chop, chop, chop. And until next time, bye for now. I'll leave you with these beautiful clouds moving on one of our recent hikes on Mount Diablo. Thanks for watching. Definitely leave me a comment if there was something you liked, and if you want to see more of this, go ahead and subscribe. Talk to you soon.